This is the future. Evolution.
The Crossing Realms Conference launches September 19th and 20th and will dock in Richmond, Missouri. This is already being called the event of the year, folks. With an unprecedented list of speakers and special guests, 2 days of cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal presentations, along with a celebrity-filled ghost hunt, meet and greet, gallery reading, vendors, and a film screening. This promises to be both educational and fun. Go to Eventbrite.com to secure your tickets and vendor slots before they are all abducted. They're going fast.
Well, hello, everybody. Hey, it's BMR, and I'm back. Boy, I missed you guys. I was under the weather. I didn't do a Friday story time show. I did not do a late night with the girls. And I just today started feeling a lot better. So I apologize if you missed me. I missed all you guys. But you're here. It's Tuesday night. We're beyond with BMR and Krista. We got our friend, great friend of mine, and Krista, who will be at our conference, by the way, Sir Bryan Bowden. In fact, I was feeling very giving today. Typically, I pin my books at the top of the chat for you guys to buy them. But, you know, my buddy Brian started this channel a while ago, a few months ago. And in the beginning, it's always tough, no matter how popular you are. So I pinned him. Go subscribe at Bryan Bowden. He's at 275 subscribers. My goal tonight is to get Brian to 300. Let's get Brian to 300 subs tonight. That's only 25. There'll be 100 of you in here. Let's do that. Let's just do that. Do that for Sir Bryan, myself, Krista, and the whole rest of the gang. So, yeah. Let's do that tonight. Of course, if you're new here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube and the Blondie and the Booze Paranormal Podcast, all found on YouTube. Subscribe to the rest of the toys on the Misfit Island. You know who they are. You know where to find them. Check them out as well. Leave a comment. Hit the like button. Eventbrite. That's right. Get our tickets. With that being said, and don't forget to buy my books, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Type that in your Amazon browser. So I'm going to bring up Miss Krista. What's happening?
How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Oh.
Like I said, I just finished getting over whatever the heck type of illness I had. And
yeah, that's no good.
oh, it was no good. I feel good. The only thing that sucks is it feels like fall here. I always talk about the weather. I'm sorry, Krista. It's 40 degrees. I planted my garden last week.
Keep the cold. It's nice here.
But even though I got crappy weather here, it's worse down south. So my prayers out to any of you folks that were involved in these tornadoes. My Lord, Krista.
Did you hear about my deal on Friday?
Well, I've been out off the internet. I've been on social media. I didn't even talk to you once. I don't think the last few days. No, I did not.
I literally thought I was going to die on Friday in an F3 tornado. I was right on the highway, and literally cars started stopping in front of me. Under an overpass. Not like they didn't pull off to the side. They were stopping in the lanes. Like, yeah. So the hail was coming down, the rain. It was freaking awful. So my phone went dial out because I'm freaking out. And it was just really bad. And it's a good thing I didn't have my 1-ton truck, because I would have started pushing cars out of my way.
I know you would have.
I would have. Like, what do these people think? That it's okay to stop in the middle of the freaking highway? Like, and what about all the hundreds of people behind them? Makes no sense. And Rob, so do you remember when I picked you up from the airport, that highway?
Yes.
Remember how busy that was?
Very busy.
It was that highway.
Oh, that's terrible. That's ridiculous.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it was awful.
You know, really quickly before we bring up Brian, I found this channel, Ryan Hall, y'all. It's the weather channel. He's got 2 million subs, and it's just I'm fascinated by his show, so I've been watching it, and he's got all these storm chasers, you know, on the multiple screens, and he hits every time there's a tornado warning. Doesn't matter what state, what city he goes to it. He's got the radar, and it's engaging. And I've watched it for 3 hours when I was sick because it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And there was a bottleneck. Well, not a bottleneck. There was gawkers stopped watching this tornado, and it was coming in their direction. And there's like 50 cars pile jammed on there.
Yeah.
Well, and if that tornado takes the wrong turn, let me tell you,
they're SOL. And the thing was too that I saw. So I was scrolling through Facebook, and I actually saw a picture of the intersection where I was stopped at on the highway. Like the highway cam took a picture of it, and it said an F3 tornado narrowly missed all these people because of these people stopping. I mean, it was a big old article on it. I'm like, literally thought I was going to die. There was almost one blonde, and that would have been Brandy because I would be
right. Well, at least, you avoided tragedy. Again, all you folks down there that live down south or in the Midwest, because Missouri is part of the Midwest, and you and Brandy got hit hard 3 or 4 times already this season.
We did. Yep.
So I'm glad you're okay. And we have the conference coming up, and we've got one of our main speakers joining us.
We do. I'm excited. Brian's the best.
I am always excited. So I'm going to bring up Mr. Sir Bryan Bowden. Hey.
Stop.
What's up?
It's really funny you mentioned tornadoes.
Oh, great. Yeah. Okay.
I had a conference call with a tarot card reader that I like, who's really, really gifted. And so I had to do the Zoom call, but prior to it, I'm one of those weather geeks. I monitor earth changes.
Yeah, okay.
So I saw the low ceiling, and I'm like, oh, this doesn't look good. I heard the thunder. So a bit of the rotate. I said, okay, we're going to get a tornado. And I went in, the guy's like, oh no, we'll get some rain. I'm like, no, dude, you're getting a tornado. And I sat at the mobile station because it's closer to these, the cell towers. And all of a sudden you get the horizontal, then you get the pelting of the hail, and then the hail gets bigger. And I'm like, I got to get out of here. So I drive over not that far across this highway, and I pull up as close as humanly possible to a target. And I call up the other half, and I'm like, don't go out and get the kids. There's a tornado. And she is like, I'm gonna die. She's just done. And she's getting pelted and whatever. And I mean, golf ball size hail. So my car looked like it went through one of those driving ranges, and there's only 40,000 miles on it. It's a 2022, and the freaking insurance company totaled it.
Wow.
Oh.
So it's this month of May has, pardon the expression, sucked. And that is the 5th tornado. I've driven through one going to Maine up in 295. Literally just narrowly in an Integra, just narrowly missed a 2x4 flying at 60 miles an hour.
Wow.
One up in Maine. I was driving down from Connecticut back into New York. There was a tornado. And when you see the 18-wheelers pull over.
Right.
No, I got as far underneath an overpass as possible. People are beeping me. I'm like, I can't go any further. And I use that as a gauge, because you can climb up a little bit and go between where the floor of the overpass is. And, you get a space and you hold on for dear life, because the suction alone will pull you out. And then the last one prior to this one, which I was driving in, we were driving down from New York to Florida because school starts here on like August 9th. I probably would have jumped out of a building if I had to go to back to school in August.
Me too.
And we drove through the remnants of a hurricane, which was Debbie. Go figure, that's my mother's name. Didn't work out well with me and her either. And my youngest in the back is, I'm like, oh, this is going to cost psych bills and whatever. So, yeah, it's no joke. I saw your pictures, Krista. I was just praying for you.
Thank you.
No joke.
No, I'm telling you, like, I've never been through nothing like that before, and I was scared. That was like
5.
And then
through 5. I want to, I'd like to retire from the tornado. I'm like, I was storm chasing, and I didn't even want to at this point,
right?
So.
Yep. It sucks.
Yeah.
I will tell you this. In Michigan, I'm fortunate. We get maybe 2 or 3 tornadoes a year. Maybe one touches down. The worst one we had was this past year, landed in Flint. Randy used to live in Flint for a little bit, and it took out an Amazon distribution center, flattened it. Luckily,
3 gifts.
3 gifts. 3 gifts.
Yeah.
I guess it went over my head. I don't know. I'm sorry. But it flattened the Amazon building, and then I watched the Storm Channel, and one day I said I'd like to be a storm chaser. Until last couple of years, I'm like, nah, forget it.
Give me ghosts and stuff any day, man.
Yeah, I'll go meet a ghost, a Dogman,
Yeah.
Some of those guys deal with softball size hail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you. No,
golf balls are like golf ball size hail. It was insane.
Yeah.
No.
F that.
Yeah,
Just saying.
That is the worst. Actually, the first one that I had was when we were going from into Worcester up to, heading up to Maine, 290 to like the Mass Pike or whatever it was. It was at night, and that's the worst. Actually, when I was driving out to film some show in a Canadian TV program, I went to Western PA, and as I'm driving there, all you hear is, there's a tornado in your area. I mean, you can't see anything. Pennsylvania is darker than dark. And I'm like, I'm in a rental. I got the insurance. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
But I well, you say like, do you want to go through a tornado? Or do you want to like see a Dogman?
Well, yeah,
up close again. Like
it was kind of like the segue. I'd rather see. The tornado is kind of terrifying.
So to me, I think a Dogman only because, like, especially if I'm in my car, like same scenario. I'm in my car, tornado in my car with the Dogman. I feel like a Dogman, I could maybe outrun it. A tornado, man, you're at its mercy.
Yeah, with my luck, I would turn right into the tornado.
Especially if you couldn't see it, like the one that I went through that said it was rain wrapped.
Yeah,
those are the worst.
Yeah,
the rain.
I'll tell you, hurricanes are real bad too, and hurricanes spawn tornadoes. Matter of fact, the last one that we had in Florida had that hurricane that hit the West Coast, just literally moved 50 miles south. My house would not be here.
Wow.
It was just around the corner from where, actually closer to where the tornado was this last on the 5th on Cinco de Mayo. But it's no joke. If you see it, I mean, it is insane that this wind can rip apart your house. And then you get the people that go through these things. This is the same thing as if you're going through a paranormal event, right? So I have a friend, we'll talk about it. You have an encounter with something and you're not prepared for it mentally, it will mess you up for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like that one house that's, they come out of their basement and their house is still standing, but everybody else is just destroyed. And they're like, why? They feel guilty that they're okay, but no one else is.
Yep.
Yeah. It's
absolutely
crazy.
No, absolutely. It is crazy, Brian. And what's crazy, I'm going to repeat what you told me 3 years ago to the chat room. I can't believe the BMR only has 300 subscribers when I went away for my break. Well, I can't believe you only have 275, but you just started your channel. Everybody, my goal tonight, I'm not being selfish and posting my stuff.
This. Yep.
Bryan Bowden is at 275 subscribers. Let's just get him at least 25. My goal is to get him 25. Get him to the magic 300. He'll be a third of the way from the 1,000.
Right.
I pinned it up top for everybody.
Yeah, no, I thank you very much for that, and I appreciate it. Just so you know, tomorrow night is the show, 8 p.m. to 8 probably to 10. We have Dennis Stone, and he owns America's Stonehenge, and they're out of Salem, New Hampshire. And Dennis is going to be talking about some new scans that they made. I've been to that location. There's a great guy in here who lives like 30 minutes away, and I'm like, go to the location. It is really bizarre. It's kind of like when you get to the Midwest, you get some of those earth mounds, that you see in Grave Creek, the Serpent Mound, and everybody's like, what's this about?
Yeah.
And it's really sad because there's an individual who does research, and she's pretty smart. She's got a degree in chemistry, I think a doctorate, and she did a book on it. And she said, "Oh, they're just what are those, cold cellars or Indian made cold cellars?" And I'm like, "No, they're not. There is no way. They're all astronomically aligned." They're pockmarked throughout New York State, and it keeps going north. Okay. And the alignments, if you start aligning the main stone, where Dennis Stone Stonehenge is, it goes right into Aylesbury and in England to Stonehenge.
Yeah.
These things were not just arbitrary, to put some liquor in, or as Tex was talking about, rum. You have me on the rum, Tex. We're going to be pirates by the end of the weekend. So come out and get your Eventbrite tickets now. We're going to change Tex's hat out for one of those bandanas, Rob. We're all going to take over the next town.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Tex, he just gifted 5 new pirates. Babies. That's right. You can become a pirate today. Join the many, join the few, depending on your point of view. Yep. Thank you. 5 pirates, and the super chat's also open. Thanks for Tex.
Tex, thank you, Tex.
But subscribe to Tex on YouTube. Of course, you all know Tex.
Yeah, I try to get. It's been stressful lately. I had to buy a car really quick, and I spent more money than I wanted to on the same type of car, but upgraded to 2025. So I was like stressed out. I need something to get rid of my, whatever. I don't do anything. I hardly drink because I'm always driving. My marijuana days are long gone.
Mine too.
I want to go back to high school again because they were really good back then. But so I saw the show on, and just when I went in there, they were all signing off, and I was like, oh. So it is what it is. Sorry, Tex. I was trying to be there. But what's interesting about all these little sites that are pockmarked throughout, the East Coast, and they're stone chambers, versus the earth mounds of the Midwest. A lot of these cryptids hang out at them. There is something that draws them to it. I don't know. If you want to look at the magnetic potential of some of these locations, it's off the chart, especially the Serpent Mound. And they talk about a huge meteorite or asteroid hitting the planet, and the particles that are there are magnetic. Maybe these cryptids are attracted to the magnetic type of energy that's coming from them. There's so many different variables. Actually, when we went up to this one place in New York State called Nina Mountain. Some people, I believe that were here at one point, in the chat, all the pirates. And by the way, the female pirates were the most vicious. So ladies, keep the work up.
Yeah, our pirates.
So
Pirates. 5 more pirates from T-Bone.
So we were up there, and one of my buddies was doing this experiment with a pendulum, asking questions, and he was holding it and he was getting answers. But we all know that if you hold the pendulum in, unbeknownst to yourself, you are moving it. It's slight, but eventually you'll get a movement, and it's sometimes you just can't control it. So we put it on the truck. We were going to go back up to this stone chamber at night. So we did a daytime one. We'll go back up there, hook it up to the tripod, and let's see. And I've been up there numerous times. I've seen Bigfoot up there.
Wow.
I've had a UFO up there. That is the place where, I don't know if you've guys seen the picture of my daughter, the fairy pictures, but that is the fairy picture land of where my daughter literally had a fairy land on her finger. And I could bring it up. I'll go find it and show you. So this is high strangeness here. And as we're the only ones on this mountain, and we parked the car and we're walking up, and I'm hearing something real big going through the woods, like pulling them down like they were nothing,
Wow.
and he's in, like, oh, I'm going to use the pendulum. And I'm videotaping a little bit. And I'm like, I hear this thing go from the 1 o'clock position. And I stopped filming him. And I'm like, we're in Bigfoot terms now. And this thing started moving from 1 o'clock and eventually ended at 9 o'clock, which was pretty close to me. The video is grainy. I was just looking at some of it today, but in certain instances, you see the eye shine. You see these
Very
two
cool.
eyes, and it's a split second. And I'll throw it up on my YouTube. It'll be on at Bryan Bowden, which is below my name right now. I'll throw it up as evidence. Go ahead. I want everybody in chat, everybody that watches this, when I throw up evidence, I'm not telling you this is this. You become the investigator. I want your information.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I've always been. I don't want you just to believe what comes out of my mouth. I want you to research it.
Right.
And I'm expecting you not to believe it. I'm expecting some of you to say, you know what, that doesn't sound right. So that's how I operate, and I've always operated in the paranormal. Like how many times, Krista? How many times have you gone over footage? You, Brandy, Paul, all you guys you must have gone over it like a dozen times, and you're like, there's nothing there. And then you throw it up, and one of you guests goes, there's a face behind the camera, and then you're like, oh my God, where'd you see that? Because you're not going to see it.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
I want people involved.
You mentioned something real quick, and then I know we can get on and talk about werewolves and dogmen.
Whatever you want, I'm here. I'm your Huckleberry.
But you mentioned the pendulum, okay?
Yes.
So have you ever heard of the human pendulum?
Were you hanging a person?
So no, let me tell you about it. So
you hang it off a wrist or something. Go ahead.
So I was the pendulum. And so you take a circle, people stand around in a circle. It takes quite a few people. And we're actually going to be doing this at our event at Missouri State Penitentiary in June. But then one person gets in the middle. It's really crazy, but I'm telling you, it works. It is the craziest thing I've ever seen, but it's called the human pendulum. So maybe when you're up at the museum, we can all do that human pendulum.
I think that'd be great.
Well, I've already said I'll do the God's helmet.
Yeah, you better watch what you wish for.
Maybe I won't. I bet you Krista and Brandy both talked me out.
I don't think Paul was ready for what I was saying that night, and but I was so happy he had the experience that he did, especially because it's family that came in. Yeah. You're going to be surprised. I'm telling you, you're going to be really, really surprised.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need it.
Has good encounters with the helmet, with the God's helmet.
I got 3 months. I got 3 months still to mull it over, and I'll take it from there. Most people that I speak with say, Rob, don't do it. So we'll see. Usually if you tell me not to do it, I'm going to do it. But we'll see.
I'm going to tell you straight up that when it comes to this and these things at paranormal events, because I do what I do, if I feel, and I will be reading it, I will be remote viewing it. I just did a remote view of an investigation, which I wanted to be on, but more importantly, my oldest daughter graduated from high school, so that is more important for me. Absolutely. But I'm sitting there, I'm doing the remote view stuff, and my buddy's like, holy crap, you are just spot on so much stuff. So I have to get a follow-up report on them. But I'd love to get these guys on. Stevie Strings, I had him on my show with his partner, this Cristiangelo. These guys are legit great. Stevie's a movie. He makes movies. He's got a production company, but he's been investigating cryptids and creatures. There would be fantastic for the audience. I think everybody would love them. You guys would love them. They're real down to earth guys.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
yes, sir.
I'm going to give a quick shout out, and then we'll move on to something that we haven't done in a while, Brian. But first, Hellbent Holler. They were on me and Brandy and Krista. I'm sorry, we're in the chat room. They had a great show. Go check them out. And they said, hey, BMR, if we'd have known you're on tonight, we would have promoted you. And yes, the days do run together every Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. Subscribe to Hellbent Holler. They have a fantastic show.
Absolutely.
I appreciate them, Joe and Jesse over there do a good job. Brian.
Yes.
You've been on probably a dozen times in 3 years.
Okay.
In the beginning, I remember we always started out, when I was getting my feet wet, Dogman, Bigfoot, this, that, and the other. Then we just have kind of evolved into everything weird, paranormal, alien abduction, time travel. We've covered it all. Go check out the back shows.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
going to revert back to our roots. What got you on my show in the first place? The werewolf and dogman phenomena.
Yeah.
Right? And I know you sent some photos and some things.
Yeah, we'll get into that because that's a specific thing that I recently just got.
We will do that.
I can do it now if you'd like.
Well, why don't we start out? We'll get into that. We got some time here. I have an idea what these things are. Krista does. Most people chat do. What's the difference? And this might be a third grade question, but for most people, it's not, man. It's ever evolving.
Yeah, it is ever evolving.
Is there a difference between the werewolf and the dogman?
Yeah, there's 100% difference. One has a better credit score. No.
I would say that's the werewolf because that is probably a human.
So the werewolf is a legend, an urban. Well, it's urban in a sense because the individuals bringing this up many moons ago are talking about a transformation type of from human into this creature. It's based loosely on a Native American lore, where the Wendigo, the Skinwalker as well. So these are transformative type of characters. You have to do something horrendous and hideous, and like literally sacrilegious, if you want to say, to family members, and then you gain the dark powers and you're able to transform into supposedly other animals. Could be a coyote, the trickster, a hawk, a wolf, whatever. But what made it really big is Hollywood. Frankenstein versus the werewolf. Lon Chaney, American Werewolf in London, the changing, the teeth coming in and the hair is being put on to over makeup. That was supposedly the werewolf. The difference between the two is the Dogman, which sounds cute and all, is everything a werewolf would want to be. It's like a jacked up werewolf. And in the sense that it doesn't change. It's not transformative.
Right.
From man into this. It's in my opinion, its own species. Okay. Now we're gonna get into a gray area because I'm gonna talk a bit about this, and I know I'm gonna piss a lot of people off. But I keep notes on all my stuff. I have hypothesis, questions, and then when you have an encounter, it answers like a bunch of them, but then it gives you another bunch to put back up. People are gonna get mad. I'm gonna say it right now. I do thoroughly believe that the cryptids known as Bigfoot and the Dogman are related, very related, and I believe that through manipulation and deformities, we have them in humanity. I mean, we've seen. Isn't it very interesting that children or individuals that have Down syndrome have a certain look and feel to them?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. My doctor had an issue with a cleft in his lip, but his nose was also pressed down, and I've noticed the different patterns between different people. And we're not even just talking about different continents, the Asian contingency. And when you get into that, it gets a little bit crazy because some are, if you get the Japanese version, you get the Chinese version, then you get the Koreans. Hi, Donnie Cho. I know you're here. You say stuff. And I have half Korean nephews. So and then you get into the Filipino, and then you get to the other part of the Asians where you get Indian or Pakistani. Please, guys, if you're in the chat, do not fight. It's over. Let's just hang out. I'm not trying to start wars here, but I've seen some of the influences when the West has gone to the East and they mingle and you have interracial children. That's part of what goes on. And most of the time they are absolutely stunning. Interracial children are just stunning. They get the best of both worlds. And then you get these varieties. Now, if you've ever seen a couple of Bigfoot images, Todd Standing or whoever else wants to go out there and take pictures of them, you get ones that kind of look more Neanderthal and may have roots to the Neanderthals. And then you may have ones that look more on the African side features, as if you were of a darker complexion, more melatonin. Then you have the lighter skin ones. I mean, this is where it gets out of control crazy. But I think when you get into the Dogman, there's 7 variations of the Dogman. It goes from something that looks like a Bigfoot with special needs. We'll just leave it at that. All the way up to, and then a dog or a wolf dog, like, German Shepherd, a baboon, a ape. And then it gets really crazy. It gets into like a soldier, which is like the werewolf you saw in Van Helsing. But I think that there is a genetic tie between all of them. And, you say someone was talking like the land of misfit toys, like the ones that don't fit in. They get to be pushed to the side and then they start interbreeding. And then you get different variations. Now, this is just a theory I have.
Like the Jack in the Box that pops out of the caboose of the train.
Yeah, it's just, it can be really crazy, but you have so many people in the world of paranormal that are diehard. No, Bigfoot's flesh and blood. And then you get, no, it's woo, or it's like, I think it can be both. It has an innate ability to either be flesh and blood, right, or change its molecular structure and become a different form of energy, and then eventually go interdimensional.
You mentioned that they might be related somehow, and a lot of people know him, and he's a good friend of mine. Is Martin Groves. So his encounter at the LBL was both Dogman and Bigfoot. Like, so maybe they are they're working together, or I don't know. There's something going on there.
I mean, if you look up, I don't have the chart readily available, but there is a chart called the 7 variants of Dogman. And if you can go find it, you could share it and you'll see it.
Is that the chart we're talking about that's been out for probably forever?
Yep. It's been out forever.
So let me ask you, let me ask you, Brian, no criticism on you or anybody.
Not at all.
I always thought that maybe that was a little outdated, but is that you still you go with that?
I don't. It's an idea in my book. I believe it is outdated, and I believe the camps, people dying on hills, is outdated. You can't go into any aspect of the paranormal, and when I'm saying paranormal, I'm encompassing everything,
right? And
just be nope. It's a demon or it's the Nephilim. No, you don't know. Nobody has a physical one that I'm aware of. I've been pretty damn close to them. The closest I've ever been to a Bigfoot, I don't call him Sasquatch, I call him Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Apparently, from what I understand from a couple other people I was talking to, native wise, they don't like that term. They're offended by it. So, hopefully they don't have pronouns eventually. But I literally, I pardon the expression, shit you not, I was no closer than probably about 6 to 9 inches. It was right by my foot. It was peeking its head in. Wow. And I wasn't expecting it because I was 10 years old and I'm on the East Coast. And I'm like, no, all this stuff's on the West Coast. Wrong. As you start researching it, you find out like the East Coast has a lot more population of both these Bigfoot and the Dogman phenomenon.
Right.
And I found through my research, very interesting. When you have a Bigfoot in your area, you're going to have Dogman, and there's going to be some kind of divide in between them.
Yep.
You know, because like something natural, usually like there's a mountain range or there's a stream or some rocks or a super Walmart or something between both of these, because you stay on your side of the fence, we'll stay on our side of the fence. You know, so I think it's off. You're right.
Yeah, with the LBL, you know, some people say like Dogman stays at the, you know, north and Bigfoot's at the south, but you know, they've both been seen in both places. So, you know, maybe I don't know.
They've been seen not only in both places. Like I did an investigation, and remember what I said, when you've looked at your own research for so long, you can't see the trees. You know, what is it? You can't see the sky despite the trees, or whatever it was, the term. It was a person listening in and going to the website, you know, that we had, Bronxville Paranormal Society, that was looking and did the circle around the shirt, you know, like around it. And these are my images. And in one of them, it looks like a giant monkey or a Bigfoot. It's got the conical head, and it's kind of creeped down, and it was trying to hide. And you never would look at it or pay attention. You'd think it's a little bit more pareidolia, but it's sharper than pareidolia, so I know it wasn't. And then you have another image of a Dogman, which looks like it has the pointy ears, the snout up in the air, sniffing, and they're known for that. That's one of the characteristics. When people have an encounter, they're gonna hear that sniff sound. They use their senses so much. So if you've ever had a dog or a pet, first thing they do is their nose goes up and they collect all that information, and they know you're coming. So, but I do believe it's outdated. Maybe we should put together a better chart.
Hey, listen, I mean, it's not that I was being all that critical of it. It was just I've seen it. I started doing this when I had my encounter in 2018, and that's one of the first charts I seen. And I just keep seeing it, and the more experience I've gotten, more people I've talking to, it just seems like some of the things we can change. Like, let me ask you this. I'm of this opinion that the Dogman's an upright bipedal canid, you know, that can walk on two legs. Nothing really supernatural about it, really, in most instances. I believe the werewolves exist because if you live in the state of Michigan, there's so much lore, folklore. Now there's, just because I say those two words, there's always truth behind some bit of folklore. It started somewhere and was not made up. Certainly throughout the years, it maybe have gotten, you know, made superficial, right? It made, you know, they made it into this big wound up story, you know, the Lon Chaney, the Wolfman, right? But there's a lot. I believe that people have been cursed by as we mentioned earlier, by these First Nations. I believe in the 1800s, early 1900s, that settlers were cursed by the tribes. And I think that maybe the werewolf is kind of, maybe that's outdated. Maybe we just call him a shapeshifter, right?
Right. I mean, here's something interesting. Ron Murphy, the crypto guru Murphy, will be at the conference as well. He talks about certain things, but there are images in France of a werewolf or a wolf on all fours coming in, and there were people that went out of the village to capture it. But here I'm gonna throw you a curveball. While you guys are there, someone look up St. Christopher, and you're gonna see that St. Christopher at times was described as having a wolf's head.
Really?
A wolf's head. And there are legend after legend about beings with wolf's heads appearing in certain areas around the world. There's indigenous legends. St. Christopher is, you know, the patron saint of hopeless causes. You know, it's pretty interesting, right? Now you also have the Anubis in Egypt, and I'll be the one that said it when everybody's like, "Oh, did you see the pyramid stuff?" I'm like, I knew about that like 25 years ago. Okay, the Egyptians didn't build crap; they happened upon it. that was built by a culture that no longer exists. And it may have had connections to the Atlanteans. I doubt it, but I think it was a culture that was here. They went to a certain technology. They created the language. Some of them got tutored by some of the original inhabitants of the area. And notice the difference in when the Egyptians, if you look throughout Egypt, from when the pyramids were built and the Sphinx and all that stuff until later on, it didn't get better. It got worse because they did not know what they were doing. They were trying to emulate or simulate, and they didn't have the technology to do it. So, sorry, Zachariah, whatever your last, like Wakawi or whoever the Egyptian, antiquities guy who thinks, Egyptians built everything on the earth. I'm like, no, you didn't. So that the fact that these are batteries and the same technology will be found when they go really deep. It'll be found in Central America, in China, Bosnia, the U.S. You supposedly up in Michigan, don't you have a pyramid in one of the lakes?
We do.
Yeah, well,
and of course,
and you have a Stonehenge type of structure.
We have a Stonehenge in Lake Huron.
Yep,
which is crazy, and I think the pyramids in Superior, which I certainly wouldn't doubt, because Lake Superior does have underground military bases.
Yes, it does.
And it also has, which I believe, an alien base. A lot of UFOs are seen coming right out of the water of Lake Superior.
Yep.
Or dipping from the sky into Superior. Mm-hmm. Superior is fascinating.
It's an amazing.
Well, they all are, really.
Yeah, they all are pretty fascinating. I think some of the craft going in there are going to bases that were built by extraterrestrials, supposedly in Daytona Beach. Not only do they do motorcycles, but off the coast is a mothership that keeps coming out of the water. And then also there was one that appeared not long ago in the Gulf of Mexico. It could be the same mothership, but just, going back and forth. Now, one of my theories about, so they could have built it there, and that's where they're hiding, because there's USOs, unidentified submersible objects. But also, I think if you take in consideration that maybe some of these engines are cold fusion or fusion based, you can get fusion from, water, the molecules, the hydrogen. So maybe their technology is, it's kind of like going, dip it into the local gas station, filling up, and then, you scoot back out again, or you cool your jets and then you go back out, which is interesting. I also personally believe you follow the legends of Atlantis, and Atlantis has appeared in several different locations. My personal opinion is Atlantis was an unidentified submersible object, and it was a ragtag rebel group, that said, no, we're going to teach these people. And when the ship rose up, they started teaching the humans there all this technology, and they got in trouble for it. And the fire and the destruction of it was either you get back down underneath the water and take off, or we'll kill you, from a higher up, in the rankings. And that's why there was a volcano and fire and all that.
And I don't want to distract too much from the subject. We still
no. I'll go back to.
I do, but I got to say something too, because you know how we do, Brian.
Yeah.
The one last thing I will say is 1994, the Michigan UFO sightings, when there was an armada. They appeared. They're all on radar. Some 300 blips.
Yeah.
And by the way, that was such ancient radar that is, of course, you can't get it no more. It's gone. I wonder who took care of that, right? But they caught this. There was our whole armada dipped right down into, and it was funny because Lake Michigan, most of the Great Lakes, they freeze, but they are not frozen solid because they're too massive. But you'll get much like on the ocean, right?
Yep.
And there was a little spot that just happened to be open where toward the end of the night, about 4:15 in the morning, this armada zipped right into Lake Michigan and disappeared off radar into Lake Michigan.
Yeah.
Fascinating. That's a crazy.
That was 94, right?
1994. Yep.
Yeah.
The Michigan UFO incident, seen by well over 366 calls that night into radio stations, into the weather stations, news stations, and of course, like the Phoenix Lights, it kind of went away. But
it kind of, they all go away. I mean, but I think there's anomalies that are left over. Someone mentioned the Bermuda Triangle. Yeah. I think what you do have there is more so.
Well, we do have the Michigan Triangle, which hence was in the area of said.
Right. So there's, you get these. Well, getting back to the cryptids and a lot of this stuff, they usually hang out by ley lines.
Yeah. And
areas with high vortexes and high magnetic fields that change on the top, like in on a dime. So you can get a positive field or a negative field. And apparently he went to Texas Front Porch, Krista. So
I know he's got to change that.
Texas entered the building. But so I think there may be some part of it that is UFO based, be it extraterrestrial, interstellar, interdimensional, and what have you. But there are also, when we're talking about these cryptids, there are. I don't want to cough on camera.
You're good.
There are a variety of individuals that have had encounters and experiences, not only visually being someplace like we're camping and all of a sudden the ship comes down or whatever, or they've been abducted and they've been taken aboard the ship and tested and whatever. And there are individuals that have seen what looks like werewolves on craft, Bigfoot on craft, and some other strange entities. There's individuals that have seen them come out of the ship as well. There are a variety of different species that look like the species that look like Chewbacca. It's a really tall species. I mean, almost exactly like Chewbacca. There's ones that look like an Albawitch, or a Puckwudgie, and they're smaller. There's a whole variety there. That's why when we get back into the Dogman, the 7 different types, are we seeing 7 individual different types of species that just like to hang out with each other,
right?
Or is it a defect? And I think it's more a defect.
Well, even like I don't remember which one it is. I've seen that chart a lot too. But there's one in particular, like what I refer to would be like a gugway. So.
Well, I was going to ask. Go ahead,
like
Chris.
Misidentified, like could they maybe be misidentified?
100%.
You think maybe even Chris, a good point, and I was going to ask you this earlier when we're talking about the Sasquatch, Bigfoot, forest people related with Dogman, as you mentioned, which I think is fascinating, by the way. I don't think it's ridiculous at all. Maybe the Gugways are inbreed of both. Who knows? Got both characteristics.
I mean, it could. Yeah, it's it'd be great if we can go out and capture them, and then kind of like, here, Twinkie, you're gonna live with me now, Sloth. It's gonna be, like
we have captured some. I think we do have some.
It's actually very interesting you said that. And then, if you don't mind, let's go into something, and then
let's do it. Let's do it. We're gonna move right into that because you know how we roll, and this could be a 5-hour show. And excuse my rudeness. My mom is 79, but very sneaky. She always tries to sneak out at night and take the car somewhere when I'm doing a show. I had to put the kibosh to that when I can tell.
Yeah. I always get the silver alerts. I'm like, can someone take Grandpa's keys away? But they always hide keys. They're from that old school where things are hidden and you'll never find it.
And no, for those listening that are new, I do not live in Mom's basement. She lives with me. I brought her in 7 years ago after Daddy passed.
And you're a good son. So
let's move on.
A while ago, I met an individual, Brian Singh, I believe his name is, and he's doing a disclosure conference in July down in St. Peter's. And we were talking about a little bit about Dogman. He goes, "Oh, I'm going to send you a Dogman image." So I said, "Okay, whatever." So he sent me some of these images, and then I got the information. And this actually comes from a woman named Michelle Nobles. So I want to give a shout out to her. She got it. She is friends with someone who works in Ohio as a police officer. And there was a people reporting a bear doing weird things in an area of Ohio.
Did you want me to pull that up, or do you want to?
So, well, we'll do it in a second. So basically, so a police officer responded. He was one of them. I'm trying to get this person on the phone. It's very difficult when you're a police officer because your career depends on certain things. And if you tell people you've seen UFOs or green men or Dogman, it doesn't go over well. Okay. Until it becomes really, really outed. But you can put the DM1 photo up, but this is the photo I got first, and then we'll go to the next one. So this is the image. Now, I've seen black bear before. Okay. It was a little bit too dark. I would have loved to have a better image of it, but I didn't. So what I did is, if you go to DM2, I lightened it. Now, I've seen black bear. I've seen them up close. I've seen them on their hind legs. I've seen them in different things. And there are certain qualities to this that 100% will say, that's a black bear. I've seen it before. The problem we get is the eyes. And the ears are a little bit more, believe it or not, they're not as rounded, and they're kind of going into the pointed shape. I've been really close to a Dogman that is similar to that, a little bit more pronounced. And I think this is a younger one.
Well,
okay?
Even the body doesn't look like a bear's body. You know, bears are round, and
yep.
this one looks
legs are much longer.
You know,
yeah, it's just the strange thing is, apparently this bear that was reported, because people would not, you know, it would look like a bear in the woods at night. There were 3 people that showed up, and you can put it to the next one, guys.jpg. These 3 individuals show up.
It says location JPEG.
It says GUIS. No. The one after the DM2. It should be the next one, right next to it, to the right of it. You see that or no? You may have to scroll.
Is it with the
guys.jpg?
Yep. There's guys. Yep, guys JPEG. Yep. Okay. So apparently, what happened is, now this is an image of, I believe, this man's phone, but also maybe the camera that they wear. These guys show up, and they're ready to tranquilize and take out this, and they literally tell him, "We're taking it." Now, when I mentioned this before in another show, everybody's like, "Oh, those don't look like military guys. Where are the guns? Where's this?"
Right.
Okay, I'm not there. I'm trying to get more color and more information on this, but I will tell you that even with a paramilitary or a military unit, it's not everybody with guns. If you're dealing with law enforcement and you're going in and you have the juice, I mean, these guys look pretty damn serious about
they look scary
what they're doing. And, the guy in the middle is definitely taking a picture of the person who's taking a picture of him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when you do have like some of these units, because I've gotten phone calls from people that do what these guys are doing. And they tell me, like, they have a lot more to lose. These are the guys that are going to approach the police and tell them, "We're coming, we're taking it. If you have a problem, call this." And I guarantee you, if I get this police officer on the phone, I will wager the farm that they got a dispatch call going, "Let them have it, walk away." Because those guys have the juice for it. Mm-hmm. So they came, this thing didn't even put up a fight. So something must have been wrong with it at one point. And the next image is they come up, they have an 18-wheeler, there is a strange device in the 18-wheeler. I want to know what that is. I have a feeling it is some kind of electronic field that will go around this creature, and kind of like an electronic fence. And if we know, or the government that's been dealing with these things, and we know there are scientists that have like several of them locked up someplace. I mean, I will again wager everything I have on it. And they've been doing experiments on these, and maybe even making, as some people said, super soldiers or some DNA splicing to do something with it. They know how these things operate. And I believe the Dogman, like the Bigfoot, has innate ability to either be flesh and blood and or go interdimensional and change its form. So in other words, disappear. And this device right here, I'm trying to get some of my really good electronic buddies that deal with different things in physics and other sciences. I'm like, is there a box that would create an electronic field to negate other fields so it would immobilize something that can change? And I know that they have the potential to do that. They do experiments with this on a quantum level all the time. So they put that cryptid into the 18-wheeler that's in there, which would be the next photo. And this guy, of course, is a police officer, followed this 18-wheeler. I wish I had a plate, but it doesn't look like, it looks like a white plate, and a lot of government plates are all white. If you've seen them, you'll see these 18-wheelers on the highway. If you've ever seen an 18-wheeler on the highway with a white plate and there's a soldier driving it, that is a nuclear missile. Okay? And that guy's not stopping for anything. And if you try to pull him over, he has the authority to just eliminate you because they're carrying nuclear material. And then they ended up in a location which seemed to be like a warehouse, and that was it. I'm kind of trying to pull a little bit of the remote viewing on this, and my
warehouse,
my spidey senses are saying this guy was told, back off, don't go over there, and walk away from this call. At this point, they knew he was there, and his sergeant probably was like, "What are you doing? Get out of there."
So what kind of warehouse was this? Do we know?
I don't know. That's see, I have a ton of questions I want to ask because I'm a Region 5 director for the North American Dogman Project, which is basically the dirty South. It's all over the South. It's from like Louisiana, like from Texas to the right. And I may be visiting all those places on the way back from the conference that's taking place September 19th and 20th. I'm trying to promote it.
Of course.
And I just know a lot of people in the military. It would be I don't think it would be like a base or like a warehouse. It would be like something with the government said, well, I don't even know if they would say that they got permission. I think they'd just use it as a holding facility, and whoever owned it, if they came here, like, who the hell are you guys? They go, show some tags and get them off the property. We're borrowing your place. They did that for the former vice president when she was campaigning. They literally, a Secret Service just opened up someone's business. They picked the lock and they used it. So if they have a covert group,
and that does kind of make sense too, because like St. Louis here, we have McDonnell Douglas, and they build airplanes. So even something like that, take them to somewhere like that. That's you got to have clearance to get through McDonnell.
Just so you know, the town. I didn't get all the information, but the town where this took place begins with an H. That's what I was told, and I'm looking, and I don't know Ohio. For the life of me, I only know Canton and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because Canton is where my grandfather moved to, and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, or Cleveland. Apparently, this town is 45 minutes away from the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Wow!
And if you know anything about that, that's the original Area 51.
Tex will take you to Brown Springs, by the way, Brian.
Sure. Do they have rum there, Tex?
Middle of nowhere.
they got a full bore casino you guys will frequent, which is not too far up the road.
You know what? I get tempted. My game was roulette, and but the last 2 times I gambled was a long time ago, and every time I gambled, I won 900 and change or something like that.
Oh.
One of which I was playing War, by the way.
Oh boy,
remember that game of War?
Yeah, I remember.
Casino had it. I was like,
we all played it as kids.
Yeah. And I won about $1,000. And the first time that I did it was a weekend. My good friend Andy passed away, and then the second time I did it around my anniversary, my grandmother passed away. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to be gambling anymore.
No, I wouldn't either.
You know, yeah, I hear you. I mean,
it's just
I play Texas Hold'em. I used to play roulette, but
I love roulette.
I love it.
Just my money to throw it away.
Hey, the first time I played roulette like anything else, I put $50 down on 32, and boom, I hit. And I could see all these ships coming my way. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And so as a rookie, I blew half of them, but I did pocket the rest and still came out well.
That's a big win. That's a really big win.
Right, you know what?
That's a hell of a
17 to 1 odds.
Yeah. It has the best odds. I mean, everybody's like, oh, I play blackjack. I'm like, if I want to fold, if I want to double my money, I'll fold it and put it in my pocket.
Yeah.
I want to walk away. But one of the reasons why I like it is I like the numbers. Yeah. I start noticing the patterns. And then it changes. You got to watch how they. Everybody has a tell or how they do certain things, and if they're consistent, you can game the system. Now you can't as much because it's all electronic. But this was prior to electronic stuff.
It is.
And it doesn't hurt if you have certain.
Yeah, it is fun, but you can get caught up and you can wreck your whole weekend. I've done that once or twice in Vegas. I gotta ask you though.
Yes, sir.
Something came up, and it was a question that Eddie was asked me. I answered that because
there's several questions I've started.
Krista, thank you for that. I noticed that, and but I was thinking we were talking about that chart earlier, and then you mentioned this military activity. But there's one thing, and I told you what my take was on like the Dogman and the werewolf. But I also believe in this. I believe in it. I've done 2 shows on it. You guys can check them out in the archives. The creation of militant dogmen made by our government or some other country. I don't know. I'm gonna go with our government. Why not?
Our government.
Yeah, I'll just go with that.
No. It's.
I think that they have labs. I think that we've released. I think we mess around with things we shouldn't mess around for whatever the reason. I don't know. And I think that they either escape or get released into national forests. I believe in that, and I believe we make these things outside of the natural phenomena that takes place.
Right. So I'm with you on that. Everybody asks, do you think this is the super soldier program and they make these super soldiers? No, I really do believe, like everything else, these creatures have been around since the beginning of time. And indigenous Native Americans, the indigenous, always have a tale or of the keeper of the forest or the guardian of the forest. And there's some good stories and bad stories about it, and there's these good stories where the guardian of the forest, stops certain things from happening and yay, whatever. And then you get the stories where that same guardian of the forest, mostly the guardians of the Bigfoot, but they also have the others in the forest, which are more like the Dogman. And I forgot what tribe it was, but there was one tribe that, like I said before, there was a split. The tribe was there. On the left side were Bigfoot, on the right side were Dogmen. The problem is that the Dogmen were sneaking into the camp, where the natives were, and stealing some of them and eating them, killing them, unaliving. Sorry, and the natives kind of got pissed off. Like, what are we can't really do anything. So the way the story goes is that they came up with an idea, and what they did was, instead of just going to attack the Dogman, they need a better solution. they set the Dogman up and did an attack on the Bigfoot and made it look like the Dogman was in. And then they sat back and the Bigfoot got pissed and literally wiped out the Dogman from that point forward, because I think they killed a couple of the young or whatever. These two always fight with each other, but I've seen some images of what looks like really deformed, kind of like a deformed Bigfoot, but it's hanging out with something that looks like a Dogman, and I mean, we've all went to high school, right? So there were the pretty people, the cool kids, the rich kids. No, seriously, it's like a John Hughes film.
No,
but
you're right. Yeah.
You know what? And I mean, people not that long ago would, if they have a bastard child, they would put it in some kind of hospital and forget about it.
Yeah.
And so I really do believe that at certain points and over time, there could have been genetic, like you could have had these things, something take place between a canine and a human. And then you had some radioactive moments and that genetically changed, each one and created these individuals' deformities out of it. And that genetic code still travels throughout. It's really interesting. They just did something that they publicly stated. There's a process. It's called a CRISPR, CRISPR. And it's basically clustered regular interspace short plendomic repeats. It's a DNA sequence found in bacteria. And what it does is it helps immune system fight certain viruses. And they had a child, a young kid that was basically going to die because they couldn't process through the liver certain things. So they were building up ammonia. So what they did was they used this process and they sliced your DNA and they inserted a DNA molecule back into the system to try to trick the body.
Wow.
I've been doing a ton of research on this. Again, I was flesh and blood at one point, but I've seen these cryptids change from flesh and blood into something that looks like, like bubbles. It goes from a whole piece in a FLIR, and then you start losing elements of it until it gets into like these little bubbles and they go away. I think they can change themselves on a quantum level. And what they do is they change. First of all, they can hide underneath active camouflage. We all saw Predator. That is legit. Okay. And the way they do that is they use soft physics. This is not going to be on the test. None of you. Don't worry about it.
Oh boy. I
was
looking forward to the test.
But they use soft physics. And they start building up melatonin and other little liquid layers. And then what it does is it reflects or refracts light in a certain way that they blend into the scenery. It's called active camouflage. If you've ever seen a hummingbird, that bird changes colors constantly, because what it's doing is, while it's doing something, it innately will add a little more melatonin to its body or change the spectrum that the light spectrum. So if something is to go invisible, and it can't get by the way, if it is invisible, nothing gets past FLIR, because that's heat signature. Okay.
So something invisible will still give off a heat
100% will give off a heat signature.
Okay.
So you could be wearing like, like, oh, it's Harry Potter, and put that invisibility cloak on there. But if one of the teachers has a FLIR and goes, all right, take that shit off, like, because you're going to see his outline. It's heat.
Yeah.
But where it gets strange is, and this is why I think it goes interdimensionally, it has the ability to change that structure so it's invisible. And then I've seen FLIR where you physically see the head and the shoulders. I mean, it's big, massive on a Dogman. There's something coming out soon, and I'm not at liberty to mention it, but follow the NADP because they're going to be discussing it. I think this Friday, probably on Star Fox's show. I'll get it to you and let you know. They have FLIR imagery from LBL of a female Dogman, and they're smaller, and you see the pointed ears. It's all FLIR, and she's holding a baby.
Oh wow!
And you see the little pointed ears. But what happens is, I've seen images where it's FLIR. You can physically see there's something there, and then all of a sudden it starts, breaking up or dissolving into little molecules, and then it's gone.
Wow.
So but getting back to the super soldier, our government sees this and they go capture one of those, and they capture it dead first, and they go, we need to capture it alive. So they start, they dissect everything. That's how they work the inner workings of it. And they go, okay, get one alive. And then they play with it. And, after decades upon decades upon decades of researching these things, be it big man, or a Bigfoot or Dogman or Owlman, Owlman.
Well, hey, there's Owlman, there's Frogman, there's Goatman,
there's Goatman,
there's Bobman, Krista
all
Man,
kinds of mans.
Krista Gal, Brian Man.
Once they know this, they've been doing gene therapy. They've been, we just got the direwolf back.
Mm-hmm.
This is stuff that is going to bite us in the ass, folks.
And the other one too, technical name, I forgot, begins with an L. Anyway, they brought that. They created that in a lab. Name escapes me. It looks like a tiger. I don't know, but it's a dog.
Well,
I forget.
If let's do a little jump into ET and extraterrestrials. The little grays there. Yeah. Those are EBEs, extraterrestrial biological entity. They're clones. So if they've been cloning, and they talk about clones, someone just posted today that the actor Kevin Spacey has now been cloned. Matter of fact, if there's a whole series on this, and there are a couple of comedians talking about it, especially with Jamie Foxx and some of the other guys, and they're very candid about what they're saying. Very candid. And they talk about being cloned and being taken out to a place and seeing their clone. And if you don't play ball, that's who's going to come out. And I don't want to get into that side of it, but if we're doing the cloning, we're making super soldiers out of canines.
Mm-hmm. Well, I heard too somewhere. I don't know why all my chat just disappeared, but it did.
Tasmanian tiger. It just
that's when I forgot. And there's another science term for it, but they've got that created in labs in Sweden. Yeah,
but I heard on somebody's show somewhere that I think it was during Vietnam War. Wasn't Dogman there, and they actually fought in the war?
Was that the rock ape?
I've heard rumors of these things.
I don't remember where I heard that from, but I just find that interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting. They did use a lot of canines. The military has always used canines, and the canines they use are the Malinois. They look like really, shepherds, but they're incredibly smart. We have a rescue over here, and both my kids were doing community service there because they have to do it. And my youngest there was a litter of 5 of them, and one of them, not my type of dog, by the way. One of them sat in front of me and was playing with me and licking. And I'm like, I'm taking this dog home, And she's sitting there trying to get the only female, like, please take her home. Eventually, she got it home. And one of the reasons why I would take it is because of its intelligence. Mm-hmm. They are super, super smart animals.
Yep, they are.
Dogman, the stories, you can keep going through it, are super, super smart. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying Bigfoot aren't intelligent. Bigfoot just they're not showing it off. They're like the, 380-pound guy working construction, jackhammering in the street that has a 400 IQ, and he's part of Mensa. Bigfoot doesn't have to show off. Dogmen know exactly what's going on. They know how to mess with you too.
You know, I think you're absolutely right. They might be the smartest. I mean,
They're
I certainly
pretty
think
smart.
Bigfoot's got a lot of intelligence from what I understand, but do you think really quickly if in fact our government did create super soldiers or some other crazy hominid, who knows?
Right.
Do you think that they were smart enough to perhaps put a tracking device in them?
100%. There's no way in hell
I would agree.
they are going to allow anything that they've genetically manipulated or created to not be tracked. And here I'm gonna since you brought it up, Rob, let's start blowing the minds of people here. This is really, really interesting. And I'm trying to get the papers. I catch a little bit Russian. I understand a little bit of it. I think, because my grandfather was from Russia proper, and I kind of get a little bit of it, but I don't speak it or read it.
I just know the word "niet."
That's a no. I know some curse words. We're not doing them right now. Stuff that people would speak, but there was there's a paper that was kind of published in 1994. There were Russian scientists that this has been going around a lot. So if you've heard it, hang on for a few minutes. Some people may not. So the Russian scientists did an experiment on humans where they were able to literally send electronic markers into every atom of the human body. And they did this in 1994, and they did it to several people. So what the body is one gigantic, it's almost like a computer board. There's a lot of electronics going through us. We do vibrate. We have a signal. We have frequency. It gets crazy. But so they tagged all these things. And recently, one of the individuals died. So they knew it, they monitor it, and they were monitoring this individual. Certain patterns started to happen when you die. If you look at it, if you look at in through a CAT scan of the brain usually has it's the two hemispheres. Is you'll see like colored, yellow or green or blue, and it when it's working, operating, and when it dies, it starts to lose all that functioning. Your brain synapses start triggering off. Now, some people think it's when you die, you really are having DMT come in and you're having an illusion or a delusion and just images, and you're just doing the life review like you're on a trip. But no. They were monitoring this person, and they were monitoring every signal. There was only one signal left in one of the atoms, and they monitored it. And when they were watching it, they lost it. They lost it for an hour, and they're like, "What?" Because it was broadcasting for an hour still. So they're looking for it. The signal's not back. An hour, they decide, hey, let's reboot our computers. They reboot the computer, and they discovered the signal. The same signal, and it's still broadcasting, mind you. It traveled from Earth to, and I'm going to read this out, Jade's GS Z14-0, which is the most distant confirmed galaxy known, and it takes 13.4 billion light years for the light to reach us from there. This galaxy was discovered in 2023 and 2024, two different groups. And that is where the signal went to.
Wow.
Jeez.
Now, what's also interesting about that is they discovered light in that galaxy that is not normal light. So it means like the lights in our studios and type of stuff. This is something that seemed to be made or generated. And it is the closest to being able to support the human condition than any place else that they have ever discovered. So in theory, that constellation or that galaxy area may be source.
Wow.
heaven. And what's interesting is it's still broadcasting from there. Some people are picking up on the broadcast, and they're reporting seeing like numbers, ASCII numbers. You ever see that in the Matrix? All the numbers coming down.
Yes.
And they said that their head gets filled with all these different numbers, and they start getting calculations. They start thinking weird things and seeing things in different ways.
And that is calculations. That all those numbers is something. It means something.
Well, zeros and ones. It's ASCII for the most part. Everything that we see here, what we're going through, a computer has to break it down into zeros and ones, and depending on the sequence of 0, 0, 0, 1, 2, whatever, it represents a color, it represents a shape or certain point. Yeah.
Chris has been staring a few questions for you. I'd like to, but before we do that, a couple things really briefly.
Yes.
I want to thank Texas Front Porch, T-Bone, Joe for the new pirate members, also T-Bone, and also Joe Zappas became a no member, and he also gifted some memberships, and also Amy, 5 new pirates. So quite a nice. We got 20 new pirates tonight. Thank you so much, everybody. That's awesome. Appreciate you guys for doing that. And also, as I said at the beginning of the show, now there's more people in here. My buddy Brian's got his new channel out for about 3-4 months. I don't know how long, Brian, but it's been out for a little bit. He had 275 subscribers to start, and I've been trying to get him to at least 300. It was my personal goal. Let me look.
I've got his channel.
I don't want to know.
I've had his chat. His channel is pinned at the top of this. Click on it and subscribe.
He's at 287 right now.
287.
Thank you very much, everybody.
So we're up there. Well, that we have more. We're up 50% of you. Hey,
now, correct me if I'm wrong. I heard that if you can get me to 1,000, Donnie Cho's going to buy somebody a new Ford F-150 Raptor.
Oh boy,
Donnie's going to kill me.
Yeah, well, Donnie, Donnie, it gets you the electric car, though. I think, knowing Donnie.
No. I got to be honest. If I can get any car in diesel, I want my carbon footprint visible from space. There's a lot of reasons why I don't want to go electric.
I've many reasons. I'm not getting into it on the show because I like my channel.
Yeah. I'm not going to get into the show. Yeah, the reasons, but you don't want electric. You know what? What's interesting though is we talked about this with the UFOs going into Lake Michigan, right?
Yes.
They are and do have and are operating now a fuel cell, and what it is a long tube. And it's like hydrogen or whatever it is. And it goes like 600 miles. And then you pop that out and you put a new one in. Whatever the technology is, it has to be just as fast, if not faster, than putting gas in your car. Because I can't sit any place for 3 hours, hooked up to an outlet.
No.
Even if they had one, well, they do put them at your home. But Joe, here's the thing. I just heard a horror story. No one I know. It was on I do watch our local news because it's a talk show, and I like the hosts. They're pretty cool, and it's more my style. And actually, they had a friend that bought an electric car. They didn't pay much attention to it, and they drove it fully charged, and they went over the Mackinac Bridge. Fine and dandy, they made it. Got to I think it was called Hessel, Michigan. And on their way back, you guys, the vehicle stalled. They ran out of charge on the Mackinac Bridge.
Oh, that would suck.
And it was out. And there's not a charging port or anything. So nothing. So they were stranded on the Mackinac Bridge, everybody. And, of course, called AAA, this, that, and the other. And, of course, it was probably about a costly tow bill to get them home.
Yeah, it's,
Come on, man.
I know someone who went electric that likes because they want, for whatever their reason, and I don't. Yeah. Look, you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And they decided to use it on a Bigfoot investigation. They're parking someplace camping. and they're like in the woods. So a couple miles in the woods, and I don't know I think it was a Tesla or something. I said, this is great. It records video at night and it does like infrared, because you can do that in Teslas, automatically do it. And it's quiet, and we're going to be able to sneak up. And I understood the concept of it. Well, they had activity at the campsite, deep in the woods, and the battery died. It literally brand new charge, like literally it wasn't that far from the home. So this is the problem with some of these cryptids. When you come up against the cryptid, what do you hear? You must hear this on Investigate. How many times has it happened to you, Krista or Brandy?
I know what you're
just put a new battery in.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
But
no, thank you. I will just keep my little Jeep.
Yeah. No, I like the 1-ton truck you were talking about. That's a little bit better.
Got one of those too.
The thing is that in order for these creatures like the Dogman and they've appeared and disappeared in front of people instantaneously. They have the ability to do it. I've actually watched one that was up like this and just lowered itself fluidly, didn't bend over, and then kind of went down. It was like they were in an elevator. Okay. If they need energy, you need more energy to convert your energy to a different form. This is basic science for
mass times energy.
Yeah.
Whatever the formula.
Mass, E equals MC squared energy.
Oh yeah.
Mass times.
Yeah. Right.
So, but when they always tell you the reason why we can't convert, when you're converting energy from one source to another, you actually need more of the source that you want to get out of to convert it into another form, be it gas or liquid or a solid. But there are other forms of energy. And when you get to an event horizon or the ultimate, and let's use for sake, people understand, a fighter jet goes Mach 1, right? It goes the speed of sound. But before it gets to the speed of sound, it goes and gets a full throttle, and it builds up, and then you get a sonic boom, and then it takes off. Because you need more energy to get to that point where you're doing the energy.
Wow.
Yeah.
These creatures do the same thing, and they will drain every source possible. So
that's right. We've all heard the stories with the batteries, the phones. Yeah. I talked to a guy in an RV, battery went dead, and there was a claim to have all these creatures around him, and he had to spend a lot of money to get his RV pulled out of the forest. I mean,
it's just, what's great. One of the guys that I had on my show, and he's a friend of mine, using electronic bikes to get into a forest area for Bigfoot is a great idea, because they don't make noise, and you can go from point A to point B pretty quick. There are a couple of bikes that I've looked into that are very inexpensive, and they will, you can do 80 miles with them on one charge. And if you buy an extra battery, so you can go 80 miles in, we're not going to go 80 miles into a preserve.
Yeah. So our friend, Miguel Ramirez from Sasquatch Theory, who will also be at our Crossing Realms conference.
Awesome.
He that's what he does use. He does use an electric bike when he goes in the woods. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I mean, and they make the off-road ones for the most part, bigger tires. So, there's a lot of people that are, I don't want to get in trouble, but there's a lot of people that are doing this and have been doing it for years and aren't, teenagers anymore. And they still are going out. They still have their sites, and they want to be able to get out there. So this is a great way for them to get out there. I think it's fantastic because you literally can sneak up on the damn thing because they don't hear the noise. There's no noises involved with electronic. Thank God they put something into them. That was the initial problem with electronic vehicles. People couldn't hear them coming, and they would step in the middle of the street because they didn't think anything was there, and then whammo. So now they have to
forget when they were kids, or were they not taught to look both ways?
well, I agree with you. I grew up in the city, so if I didn't hear any noise at night, I'm not thinking there's a car coming or hear the or something.
I hear
So
you.
I'm just going to walk. So they had to put some kind of sound in there, and they make this annoying. Some of them use the same annoying sound. It's just like it's god awful. Like, could you just put, I would have to fix that. Like, put something in there like Flight of the Valkyrie or like something like, kill the rabbit from Bugs Bunny. I killed the rabbit, or I worked at a summer camp and I was at night and making sure the kids didn't cross the road, and it was one of those foggy nights. And what was interesting about my summer camp is they try to film a Friday the 13th there. And the reservoir that we were next to is called Crystal Lake.
Oh,
that's where they got it from.
Yeah.
I was there when the producers came and said, we want to film a movie on your camp. It's a horror film. And they were like, nope. And I would have been like, yep. And you can burn them all down and put them all back.
Right.
I would have let them do whatever they wanted. And it was because my mother was a teacher. So you get off for July and August. We went to sleepaway camp for free because she worked as the head counselor. So I met some of my best friends there. And one night at that social, which was on the other side of this road, the camp on the property, one of my buddies snuck around to the back, and he came out, and I'm like, something scared the hell out of him. And what he described at the time, he said, don't go back there. There's a monster back there. It is 12 feet tall. It's got these big claws and fangs and yellow eyes, and it just stared at me. I mean, the guy was white as a ghost. And I know him well enough to know that he wasn't BSing.
Right.
Now, years earlier, I had my Bigfoot encounter on the other side of where that place was, a little bit further in. And that's where my Bigfoot was. Basically, what my friend was describing, I didn't know it at the time because I still don't want to believe this thing is real. I really don't want to believe this thing. He was describing a Dogman. And isn't it interesting that what separates the property is a roadway? So again, like I said before, he sees a Dogman, and to this day he goes, oh no, I was just playing around. Now, I know enough about my friend. You've had a friend since you're 5 years old. And you lived with them. When they're telling you the truth, when they're BSing, you knew the whole thing. And what he described was a Dogman.
Wow.
So we went back there like, there's nothing back here. Stupid kids.
Right.
And this is before I heard about the Dogman. I was like, please, don't let this be real.
Don't let it be real. What's real is this. 10 more away from 300, Brian. We got a couple.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate that.
So before we go, I just pinned up top. We got a couple more questions, and we can call this a wrap. Been a great show. Krista, if you want to do us the honors.
He's at 291.
9 more.
But I will do the honors here.
Thank you.
Well, Patty, I guess this question is for me.
Sure.
Do spirits show up more during storms? I believe so, just because of the energy and the atmosphere. Absolutely.
Oh, I agree with you.
Yep. Okay, go to the next.
Matter of fact, don't like when you're on an investigation, don't you love it when there is a storm in the area?
Absolutely. Yeah, especially lightning and not just rain, the lightning.
I do love a great storm minus the tornadic activity.
Yep.
Minus the tornado, but you should always have you always want to also have an app on your phone that detects lightning, because that will have an effect that could affect your EMF readers and all that other stuff.
Yeah,
it's they could read almost up to 15 longer distance.
Mickey G asked, has Brian ever had mind speak with Bigfoot?
Not yet. That is like on my bucket list of this stuff. I've heard about it. I've talked to people who've had it, and I'm like, please, 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 please.
Well,
I want that.
Well, let me ask you this, though, and I know the difference, but really quickly, though, you are a remote viewer.
Yep.
You can see things, but you can't hear things. Is that true?
No. Everything you can see, smell, taste, touch, hear.
Oh, you can
manipulate.
Okay.
I do more than just that. It's really bizarre. And now what I can do is I can actually ask for more clarity. So I said, I can say in my mind, I see something over, that right quadrant. Can you make it more clear? And they will give me more insight into it. Or if I'm doing a reading for somebody, no, I want to see 2 months from now. And I just started doing that, and then I'll get it. And I also get back sometimes, like when I see something and I want to tell somebody something to warn them, I'll get a no or a yes. But I'm going to go tell them. And I will literally hear no. And I'm like, please, I got to go tell him. And if I try to tell you something, when I get the no, all hell will break loose for me. Like my toilet will overflow, or there'll be a problem here. They don't, and I'll explain the reason why. We all have to go through a path, and you have to experience certain things in order to gain experience, knowledge, and be a better person on your path. So if I knew something was going to happen, and trust me, I mean, I'm not talking about something bad, like you're going to die. Like I will tell you in a heartbeat. I don't give a crap about the consequences. I'm going to warn you. But if I know that if you travel that path, you're going to travel, and you're going to come up against somebody, and then maybe they're going to manipulate you or whatever it is. There's something in your lifeline in the past, multiple lives, where you skirted that, and you have to go through that experience in order to be a better person and get to a different level.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to explain.
2 more questions and 5 more subs for Brian hit 300. Sure. Let's do it. 5 more. 5 more.
All right. Next question.
I appreciate this.
Says, Sir Bryan, do you think the Atlantis could be responsible for the missing in the Bermuda Triangle?
100%. That goes into because at one point in time, if you look at the way certain things converge near Bimini, there's the Bimini Road, and it's by the Bermuda, the whole area is there. There may be certain areas in that area that make up the Bermuda Triangle that were where Atlantis was supposed to be. And if my theory, where I said it was a ragtag group of extraterrestrials that shouldn't have been doing what they're doing, and telling people like, by the way, if you mix that and that, you get this thing that goes boom, gunpowder, whatever it was. They could have been, they could have sunk the craft and buried it under the ground, and now you have this magnetic anomaly in there. But we don't do what we're supposed to do, and unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that we discuss on all these shows and people are interested in, if the truth does come out, and eventually it will, depend as society changes, it totally ruins the narratives and the control factor for people. So if if extraterrestrials land here and you see a reptilian, and that's basically human that, what we look like as people, but you're reptilian shape with the eyes and the slits, something like, remember V, way back when?
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah. If you saw that, and it would be a big problem if they land and said, hey, we're from this galaxy and whatever. How much control do you think the church is going to have? How much control do you think the police department's going to have? People saying, well, if they've been lying to us about that, I'm just going to go rob a bank, or I'm going to do the X, Y, and Z.
Right.
It gets a little bit scary. But I always go with Peter Quincy Taggart, who said,
never surrender.
Never.
One of my favorite movies. It very well could be Atlantis. Matter of fact, when they described the individuals that were Atlantean had web between, they looked very much like Nordic. They described them as very tall, the eyes, and then webbed in between their digits. And some of them also were described of having relations with people that would come in. So some of us could be Atlanteans.
Right. Absolutely.
Very well.
All right. One more question.
Yes. Blue.
And Mickey T says, "What does Brian think about Mothman?"
Ooh.
Oh, that's
another whole show.
That is a whole show. But what I do believe Mothman is an interdimensional being. It's the same being that you have been seeing in Chicago, the winged humanoids.
Yep.
And I believe all of that starts with a crack in our timeline, in our dimension, in our timeline.
Yep.
And this is where, just so you know, CERN is ramping up for July 5th. So pay attention to things that change after the ramp up, because you're going to get the Mandela effect. But once the Mandela effect came into play, it did when they ramped up Fermilab, which is the first collider up in Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And they started it up. They did some kind of experiment and they shut it down just as quick. And at the same time, the year was 1990 something. And this woman, a paranormal investigator, Fiona Broom, I believe her name was the one that coined, like, I thought Mandela died. I could have sworn he died. Well, what I think happened is at the Mothman, at the dynamite factory, TNT factory, they were tested. So there were big booms, boom, boom, boom. First time ever, and they put a hole in the different timelines.
Wow!
Because if it's like take one of mom or dad's like pottery things. Your grandmother gave it to me, and break it, and then try to glue it back together. There are always going to be seams and cracks, and I think these beings come in and they see it, and they see this light coming in, like, oh, what's there? And they went to get it, and they survive. Their nourishment is fear.
Mm-hmm.
The energy you give off when you fear, just like the Hat Man, just like the Shadow People.
Yep. Well, congratulations, you hit 300.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
everybody.
I appreciate everybody for doing that.
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough. I put on, it's weird. We have a Bronxville Paranormal Society, New York UFO group. I have all these different websites inside the Goblin universe. I have 1,000 here, 1,500 here. I'm like, can I just I wish YouTube would give you like one-time consolidation of your website.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, because I mean, it's not going to be 100,000 people. I'm waiting for one of you guys to get that silver plaque behind you.
Yeah.
Well,
that's 100. That's 100,000 subscribers, right?
Ooh,
that'd be nice. That'd be nice.
Well, that's I'm taking 1,000 at a time. I'm getting close to 6,000. I'll be 6,000 by summer, I think. So
that's great.
1,000.
Is there anything at 10,000?
10,000 is supposed to be the next big
milestone.
Yeah, that can't
I'm at. Well, I can tell you here.
You're about 15.
You guys are great. I love the whole network.
3538.
3538.
And I think I need 400 for 6,000. Something like that.
Wow,
that's
cool.
But I think you get
300.
100,000. You get 100,000. You get that silver plaque, the big whatever. I think you get something at 1 million.
No, well, shit.
We got a while for that.
Let me tell you something. You hit 100,000. Million's not as bad as you think.
Yeah,
which is really crazy. And I God bless. I hope everybody gets there. I'm still going to do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because. Whatever, it's interesting, and I love being on your shows and being with you guys, and I'm looking forward to the conference. I've been promoting the crap out of it.
Yeah. Hey, though, you've had Rob on your show. When are you have me and Brandy?
Oh,
well, you know what? I want all you guys on the show, and we've had this conversation. I want to have you in June, mid-June, if it's possible. And then maybe July, and we'll do a roundtable on the conference, and maybe get people to call in and whatever. Because the problem we have here is, and you guys know this, when you get to the summer months, and I'm hoping it's a good summer for everybody.
Yeah.
Not many people are hanging out watching podcasts, and I think you guys and the guests that I want to have on, including you. I mean, I want all of you guys on.
I was just giving you a hard time. Seriously.
No, it's fine. But I want the audience to be there for you, because I don't want yeah. So, and maybe we'll broadcast live from the conference, and you can do mini interviews.
Oh, there'll be a few of those. I'm sure. I'll be walking around with my phone and
tall and
You know,
everybody's
in between working and selling my books, right?
well, and
It's gonna be a lot of fun. I can't wait to meet you for the first time
oh, it's gonna be
in
great.
person, and a whole bunch of other people, like Lil Patty's coming down, I think, or
I can't
maybe
wait to
Mickey
meet
G.
everybody there. It was funny. Lynn Monet, who's a friend of mine, she was at Gettysburg. I'm doing Gettysburg at the end of July because they raise money
Cool.
for charity. I always go, and hopefully they put me on the Cryptid panel. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, and you know who I'm talking about. But when the first time she met me, she goes, "Oh my God, you are tall and a big guy," and I'm like, "Yeah." Because you can't judge. I have this image of Tex being like almost like Darth Vader for some reason. I don't know if it's the hat or not.
Yeah.
Donnie Cho is like 900 feet tall.
Donnie is a little taller.
I've never met you guys, but what
I personally, I am the short one of the misfits.
Well, hugs all around, so get used to it.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm only 5'2".
You're only 5'2".
Mm-hmm.
I never met
God.
Monica in person. She strikes me as no more than 5'4".
Monica is taller than me. I have met Monica in person. Yeah, I met everybody.
Yeah, well, you got lucky because you do meet some of the guys and girls in person.
Yeah,
and
we
women.
meet. Yeah, I've met everybody, most all of us, except for now Monica. And now another great thing though is what I love is the people in the chat room and the people who watch us.
Mm-hmm.
When you get a chance to meet them, now you can put the face behind, whatever their handle is in the chat room. Which is always sweet.
Right, because they see us all the time, and they're like, "Hey, Rob," and they're waving to you like,
"Who the hell are you?
I don't know who you are."
I always ask people, like, whenever people do come up to us at conferences, they'll tell us their real name. We're good with that, but then like, "Hey, what's your YouTube name?" Oh yeah, I know you.
You got to go with the YouTube name because it's so much easier.
Yeah. I got to tell you one quick brief story, and we'll go because I know Krista's got to go to work. This was so much fun. Not so much fun. I just really. And Krista had a similar experience not too long ago as well. My friend's son called me, texted me a couple of weeks ago, and he was his buddy lives in Florida, and his buddy in Florida was at a gas station, and he's seen this pickup truck, and there was in the back window there was a Bigfoot Michiganrob window in Florida.
That's awesome.
Maybe it was my buddy Bryan Bowden's down there. I don't know. He lives in
I live in Florida now. I'm going back to New York. New York shitty for a while. But
So he goes. So my buddy's friend goes in and says, "Hey, anybody who's got the Ford out there?" This guy says, "Why? What's up? What's wrong?" "No, I saw that sticker in your window. Do you know that guy?" He goes, "Yeah, Bigfoot Michiganrob. I've been a subscriber for 2 years." That was just so cool. When things like that happen, Florida, someone bought my sticker and put it in their car. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the coolest thing. I was talking to my age-old friend from fourth, like met in kindergarten. I'm in Dick's Sporting Goods. Some girl comes up, excuse me, and starts talking, and I'm like, excuse me, hold on, Dave. She goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were on the phone." So I said, "Okay, no problem." And I hung up with them. And I walked over. I said, "Can I help you with something?" I thought you needed, if I wear a red shirt in Target, people go, "Where's Housewares?" And I'm always like, "I think it's over there." I'll just direct people to places.
That's funny.
Like, "You don't work here?" "No, I don't work here." And she said, "Is your name Bryan Bowden?" And I'm like, "Oh,
yeah.
There's other issues here." And I said, "Why are you asking?" He said, "You do paranormal?" I said, "Yeah." And that was it. So I said, "Yeah, I do paranormal stuff." And it was nothing more than that. And she turned to her friend. She says, "I told you that was it." That was it.
That's awesome.
The reason why I was nervous is not long before that, one of my buddies in college, when you were hard for money, way back when, donated certain things for $75 a pop.
Oh, no.
Well, I said, "Hey, what's going on, man?" He goes, "I met my son today." I said, I'm thinking like he had a girlfriend. He goes, I said, excuse me? He goes, remember when we got that extra money? And I'm like, no way. Yeah. He met his son today. And I said, well, did they want anything? He goes, he just wanted to meet his dad.
Oh,
Wow.
really? Wow.
So I literally went and I told everybody, I'm like, someone comes to the door and says, I'm their father. That may be the case, but I have not cheated. Best drinking ever.
Yes.
Yeah. Weird.
Very weird. A very great show. Not a weird
you.
show. It's always a little weird.
I thank everybody for getting me to over 300. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I remember what you did. You attempted to do for me way back when, and you're a friend of mine. And I said, I've never, tried to outwardly promote someone like this. And
I did it for
I
Paul.
feel kind of proud, that we
No, I
got
appreciate Rob. I can't thank you enough. Krista and Brandy,
all of us. Yeah,
that's all you guys. You guys have always been great, and this is why this is more of a family thing. We were all meant to meet. We're all family. We're all good. I remember Paul posted something. I'm trying to get to whatever, and I'm like, dude, make him famous, get him over the 1,000 mark. And seriously, I don't know if my influence did it or whatever, or somebody else, but he hit 1,000 within an hour.
Yeah.
So I'm all for. One of the things about me, it's all about the love. I love when good things happen to people, and I'll always be the one that, is the loudest cheer, not to get anything, just because life has gotten better for you. So that's how it should be for everybody.
And also our buddy Greg Ogles, he's a good friend too. And he will also be at the conference.
Awesome, Greg.
Yeah.
I can't wait to meet everybody because I know the names and Relic Film.
Greg is a good friend.
Yeah. And I'd love to, just meet and hang out, and,
for sure.
And Thursday night is going to be interesting. I think we're all going to be wearing the pirate gear.
Yeah, I got. Oh yeah, well, not tonight, Brian, because I got to do some stuff. I got to get with. I just maybe, what I'm talking about with the pair of headgear.
Yeah.
Well, I'll get with you.
I sent you stuff.
You did.
But your computer died.
So I died. I need to send me where you had again.
Okay.
And then I'll get with you.
I think you'll like what I'm doing because I can now do something for you on a low scale, so you can say yes.
Okay, good. I'll check that out. Thank you for that. Yep. Thank you to Brian. Thank you to everybody in chat for coming in.
Say hi to Brandy.
I will.
Thanks for hooking up Brian tonight. If you're new, please
thank you very much.
To Bigfoot Rob, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, and of course the Blondes and Who's Paranormal Podcast. Turn on your alert bells. We're on almost 7 days a week, folks. So yeah, turn them on. Turn on Brian's alert bell. He has a pretty cool show, very good show. It's a variety of things, not just one thing, which is what I love about your show, Brian.
Yeah,
kind of like how we're evolving as well. So great show, great times. Thanks to everybody, and thank you really quickly. One more shout out to Tex, T-Bone, Joe again, Amy. I think there's somewhere else on there. I think there was more than that. I might have got rid of one. If I missed you, I'm sorry for your super chats and your donations for
Kelly's on there now.
Kelly Sandiford.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Kelly, for sneaking that in the last time. Canada's best, Kelly Sandiford.
Yep.
Very good.
Nice.
Yep.
So with that being said, until next time, for Krista and for Mr. Bryan Bowden.
See y'all.
We are out of here.
Good night.
Good night.
This is the future. Evolution.
The Crossing Realms Conference launches September 19th and 20th and will dock in Richmond, Missouri. This is already being called the event of the year, folks, with an unprecedented list of speakers and special guests, 2 days of cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal presentations, along with a celebrity-filled ghost hunt, meet and greet, gallery reading, vendors, and a film screening. This promises to be both educational and fun. Go to eventbrite.com to secure your tickets and vendor slots before they are all abducted. They're going fast.